Hello, welcome to Like a Local, Meet the Makers interviews. I'm Amalya Meira, Brooklyn-based fashion and textile designer and host of the Sustainability Tour with Like a Local. And today we have the pleasure of being with Eleonora Volpe, and she's a sustainable stylist and newly garnered entrepreneur. So welcome, Ellie. How's it going?
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. This is gonna be fun, and everything is all right. So,
And Ellie's seeing us from LA right now, and you're based in Brooklyn. Soon we'll be back.
yes.
So
Yes.
we're gonna start with the questions. Everyone, please feel free to write any questions in the chat, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. And yes, please feel free to write questions. Nothing is silly. So Ellie, let's just start from the top. When did you get interested in styling? And I understand sustainability came soon after. What was that evolution?
Yes. Well, I can say that I started styling when I didn't even know what it was, and that was about when I was a kid, when I was like 10 years old, more or less, because my sister has always been my muse, and so for me, like my favorite game to play with her was to actually like do her makeup and dress her up and literally like build clothing out of scarves, what I just had in the apartment, like stealing clothes from my mom and stuff like that. And yeah, and then I would take pictures of her, so I actually still have them, and I'm like super attached to them because that's so sweet. And yeah, so this is how this whole started, like long time ago. I already had this big passion, and then I always liked fashion, but it was more like a hobby for me. I was studying Chinese for a very long time, was focusing on a totally different kind of career. So fashion was not really in my plans. And then what happened is I graduated in Chinese, I got offered a very good job, and I hated it. So, so at that point, I started like wondering what I wanted to do in my life because I was not happy with that. And pretty randomly, I met this girl in Verona, that is my town back in Italy. And she founded a fashion school. So we met like randomly in a bar and we were just chatting. And she came up with these fashion styling classes, like a master degree. And I didn't even know that it was a job. Like I didn't even know that there were people actually doing this. So when she told me that, I was like, okay, now I know what I want to do. I want to do that and I'm going to go for it. And so it seemed pretty impossible back in the days, but I'm very stubborn. And so I decided, yeah, I decided that I wanted to go for it. And I did. And so I did this master degree. And after that, I decided to come to New York to do an internship and get my foot in the door. And that was about 4 years ago. So a lot has happened in the last 4 years.
Yes, and I've known you for a bit of them, and I know you don't waste any time. So
No.
I just have a few questions about the story, the history you just gave us. So you did the women's program, the woman that you met. You went to her school.
Yes, I went to her school. Yes.
And how long were you working as a stylist after graduating that program in Italy before you came to New York?
I had no experience at all. I mean, at least not as an editorial stylist. That is what I'm going for right now. Like in Italy, I was basically working for Max Mara. So I had this job that was in a store basically, and I was like a personal shopper over there. And that's where I learned most of the tricks because, you get to dress people from head to toes every single day. And they're not models, they're regular people. Yeah. And you have to deal with that. And so it's kind of a challenge, like my challenge was to actually like have them look super good and be very happy about the way they were looking, you know, because that made them happy and that made me happy too. And yeah, so I think I did a lot of experience in the store, and I worked there for 3 years. And in the meantime, I was graduating, but I didn't really have any experience in high fashion so far, like not in the behind the scenes, you know, like in the making process of actual fashion. I just had retail experiences and visual merchandising, and that was it. And yeah, and then when I came to New York, I had the chance to work for this studio in Brooklyn that have very big clients. So after 1 week that I was there, I was actually on set for DKNY. And after that, Bergdorf Goodman. And after that, Calvin Klein. So huge sets, you know, and yeah, with like hundreds of people working.
So you really hit the ground running. So you really hit the ground running. And so
yeah.
Can you tell us which studio that was and how did you get in contact with them? Also,
Sure.
why, like as an American,
yeah,
we think of Italy as a huge fashion, you know, mecca. And
yeah.
why did you think to come to New York rather than, you know, Milan? I know you're not from Milan, but I don't know really.
It's like 1 hour drive from Milan, so I could have totally done that if I wanted to. But the thing is, when I was doing my master's degree, part of the program was actually spending 1 week in New York. And, you know, they took us to different fashion situations. So we actually had the chance to see studios, you know, and meet photographers. And yeah, everything was so exciting. Like the first time I got to New York, I was literally like hyper for the whole time because there was so much things, so much to do. And also the style of the people in the streets is amazing. So being like visual, like this really hit me in a very good way. And I always also felt that here people experiment more. Like we have a big tradition, which is amazing, like as Europeans, but sometimes we are too limited by it, you know. And
it's really interesting to hear because, you know, I think a lot of our experimentation is with European traditional style, but like it's like visual telephone. So it's interesting to hear this perspective.
yeah, so I felt like I already had that background, so I needed something new to kind of push myself more.
Totally.
And yeah, and so I came up with, I'm gonna move to New York. And one of the studios that we visited is the one where I actually did the internship after that. And it's called Red Hook Labs. So I started, like when I went there and visited, I asked them if they were looking for interns in my very bad English back in the days. And they were like, sure, you know, like you can email us. And so I reached out and I just insisted. And yeah.
Good gutsy.
And yeah, I think this makes a difference under so many points, under so many levels, you know, to actually like reach out to people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Make questions and, you know, like really go for it. If you just sit back there, nothing's gonna happen. So
and how did you, so you got yourself this awesome opportunity and a way to get to New York, which I can totally understand how you fell in love with. And how did sustainability start being on your radar? How did you start thinking about that?
Yeah. Well, I always thought that, you know, that it was like a good thing and a necessary thing, but it was never really my radar. Like, it was like, you know, I agree with you, but there's always gonna be somebody else that is bigger than me that is gonna do something about it. So I didn't really felt that it was my responsibility to do something. And, you know, also fashion is very like, it's a weird environment as well. And being sustainable in fashion was not that easy at all. So yeah, but then, you know, I fell in love with lots of small designers that are actually, like, most of them are Brooklyn based, and I fell in love with vintage stores and the second hand. And so, you know, I started actually like collecting a little archive of pieces that I really love and that I use in 1 million different ways when I style. And most of them were actually coming from vintage stores. Yeah, so it was, I don't know, every step moving forward kind of was driving me there. And then I had the chance to participate to the first edition of Fashion Revolution, ReFashion Week, of ReFashion Week. And that was 1.5 years ago now. So it's basically the fashion week of sustainable fashion. And I thought it was really interesting. And so I participated in the styling competition, and I actually won.
That was, I mean, yes, amazing. And that was the first ever ReFashion Week, because it's been gaining, I mean, I was part of it this year. It's been gaining so much momentum in a great, we're so happy about that. And so, yeah, you won. And what was your winning look? You remember? Can you describe it?
Now, the funny thing is, when I went there, I didn't really understood that it was a competition. So I didn't know. So I just showed up and I was like, okay, cool. Let's style people with, you know, thrift clothing, and it's going to be fun. And I thought it was like a charity thing. So I didn't go there with, I mean, a challenge, you know, kind of attitude. I just went there to have fun. And we went to these warehouses that are huge and filled with secondhand clothing that people donate. And so I was surrounded by mountains and mountains of clothing. So it was like paradise for stylists.
But how long did you have in that mountain?
They didn't really give me a time limit.
Okay,
I gave myself a time limit, otherwise I would have moved there forever.
Tell me some crazy stories about how you have like all this opportunity to choose amazing clothes with like 10 minutes and then you're going live, but we'll get to
that happens a lot too. No, that actually happens always connected with ReFashion Week. That happened this year because we got interviewed by NBC, and we just found out like at the very last second. And so I had like zero time to practice, you know, like the outfits for NBC, and it was such a big deal. So I was like, you know, like, yeah. But sometimes when you work under pressure, you get the best results because you just go with your guts and not with, you know, you don't have the chance to overthink.
Yeah, I think a lot of us creatives abide by that. And I know quite a few that create that scenario for themselves intentionally. So
yeah.
But it's really awesome to hear that you won that initial competition, that, you know, it was very like serendipitous, that you just were being super honest and like for the fun of it. And it just seems like it all happened in the way it was, you know, meant to, and in a really nice way.
Yeah, and also was very interesting. And as you were saying, like this ReFashion Week, like started small, and now it's becoming like a real thing. Like this year, there was a lot of press, there was a lot of people attending it, and you know, way more competition, many more like people working on it, and it's just, for me, it's exciting to see how more and more people are actually, you know, getting interested into sustainable fashion, because until a couple of years ago, if you talked about like upcycling and slow fashion and creative reuse, you know, we're looking at you as if you were like an alien, because fashion,
definitely
fashion or high fashion. Like,
yeah. I mean, there was definitely a taboo about it in the industry that it's just, if it's sustainable, it's ugly, if it, you know, and it has only like hippie clientele and these
Absolutely.
negative connotations, which is obviously not true.
No, anyway, the whole point of the ReFashion show is proving this, that you can make amazing outfits out of secondhand and thrifting and, you know, sustainable fashion in general that actually look like a high fashion runway from Paris. So it's just people maybe need to get used to some concepts. Like, I think becoming sustainable really is a process. So it's not something that happens from day to night. It's taking many little choices, you know, like making like choices every day.
Absolutely. And I mean, you spoke about this a little earlier, and I know that I've encountered this in my work in the sustainable field. And, you know, basically a lot of people think that sustainability is so overwhelming. I'm just one person. Where can I start? Or someone else will do it if it needs to be done. And I feel like you just told us this whole saga of how you got interested in it, and it seemed so natural and organic. And you know, you, like I said, are not wasting any time. That happened a year and a half ago. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you just launched this amazing new endeavor, and you're really not, doesn't seem like you're overwhelmed by the prospect at all. And can you speak a little bit to your thought process, what your new project is?
Sure. Let's say before COVID-19 happened, you know, I was just very busy with my styling career. So I had all of these amazing ideas about sustainability, but I didn't really have the chance to work on them because I was in the loop. So I was running here and there. New
Totally.
York can be a very hectic city, as we all know. And so it was like in the back of my head, but you know, it was just there. And then I found myself quarantined. I found myself with all the jobs canceled in 2 days. So it was like so fast, like everything happened so fast, you know, and changed completely everything. So I was like, okay, so what now, you know, what am I gonna do now? So I took some time for myself, and then I understood that this time, this extra time, was a blessing because it actually gave me the opportunity to do so many things that I wanted to do. And so I started like writing down my potential ideas, and you know, and then I just came up with this project that is not only about fashion, but it's about like a wide spectrum of creative fields. And because I wanted to prove that you can use waste to create almost anything. Like you can actually take waste and do something with it, so, and give it like a second life. Because I think it's very important to be a sustainable, like a conscious person about what's going on. And so much waste out there. So yeah, so I did some research, and then I found out amazing artists that do things that you would never imagine possible with waste. So yeah.
And so and just for everyone, this is called Society of Green Arts, Ellie's new project. And this, so, I mean, what you're talking about is amazing, but also very open-ended. So are you specifically thinking about things that individuals can do on their own with things that they have in their home? Are you talking about on larger scale, like scientifically engineering trash into, or, you know, secondhand items? Are you talking about all of this?
Yeah.
How are you talking about getting it to, like, spreading the word?
Okay. Well, this project is in a very early stage, so you know, a lot can happen, but what I'm doing right now is I'm doing a lot of research to understand myself in the first place, how upcycling works. You know, how you can take like waste and create something beautiful out of it. So it could be like a statue, or it could be, you know, like taking scrap of fabrics, you know, and create a new clothes instead of, you know, throwing them away. Or it can be metal, or it can be, you know, you can basically upcycle any material. And so I'm reaching out to a lot of artists and designers out there, and I'm interviewing them. So what I'm doing is trying to give an insight to people that are curious about it, and show them that trash is not trash, that trash can be given a second life. And we have to do it because there are 14 billion pounds of plastic in the ocean.
I mean, absolutely. And I think that it just has to, I mean, maybe to some of us, this is beating a dead horse, but it's just a modern sensibility that has gone too far, in my opinion, with fast fashion, with transporting things across the world in the blink of an Amazon eye, you know, and it's just not the way we can move forward. But
no, absolutely. I think coronavirus in this sense had, you know, gave us the chance to see things from a different perspective, because it literally stopped everything. So all of the race to produce more, do more, you know, buy more, this whole chain like stopped in a second. And so now people have more time, so they can actually slow down and they can do more research, and they can also understand better what they need and what they were just buying in a compulsive way. So
compulsive, that's the word.
Yeah, so I think this is gonna change everything, and fashion, especially fashion.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I
now,
think also, well, I mean, aside from the fact that like I'm reading articles about Le Bon Marché opening and like having bodyguards for, you know, a fraction of the customers at a time that they're used to, but how are we going to try clothing on, all these things.
yeah,
But back to right now, how it's changing people's perspectives. People, we can't get as much stuff, or you don't want to go to the store. So everyone
yeah,
is trying to really conserve, reuse in a way. And I think we all have the capacity to be creative about this. We just haven't necessarily tapped into it.
absolutely, absolutely. But this is how this whole idea started, because I was in my apartment and I was like, okay, I have so much trash. Like, what am I gonna do with it? You know, like I was thinking about all the trash that I was throwing away every day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wish I knew how to, you know, recycle this or upcycle this, and just started researching. And, you know, like me, many other people out there now have time to question themselves. And this is for sure, this is not the best system. This system, you know, the world where we live in, is just too fast and too overwhelming. So I really think that now is the time to give a hard look to how it's working and make it better.
Absolutely. And I mean, I got the privilege to read Ellie's mission statement for Society of the Green Arts. And to all of you who haven't, please check out the website. It is really a beautifully written and a great sentiment. And you say multiple times, and you have already here in the interview, about how this is a positive time. Let's take a spin on it and really use it. This is, and I've been saying to myself and to anyone that'll listen, this is time we wouldn't have otherwise, to those of us who are lucky enough to not be negatively dealing with things. And I really admire the way that you are taking this time and using it in a productive way. And I think that this is something we are all doing, and it's beautiful. It's like a silver lining.
Yeah. Now and then the idea is to also like give people, you know, something useful to do, because then have like a network of artists, you know, that do that every day, that can actually be an example for people at home, you know. So instead of sit there and watch TV, maybe you can create something with your kid, or maybe you can clean your closet. Like, I think this is the best time to go through your closet, take out what you don't need, swap it, donate it, do something with it, don't throw it away.
Yeah. I mean,
So what I mean,
not everyone went to art school and has kind of tapped into that creative perspective. So I think that your new mission is going to really give an inspiration and just like the skill set to, you know, bankers, scientists, medical people, like everyone who is doing all these other amazing things, to have these tools to also be creative in a productive way.
absolutely.
And how do you think your sustainable career has impacted you in a way to lead you to creating this new project?
I think it was just a very organic process. And I think that what made me change idea about like my styling career in the first place, you know, like why should I be a sustainable stylist and not like a regular stylist? Because I love styling anyway, like I love the creative side to it. And of course it's easier to be like a regular stylist, you know, as like it's easier to go to a fast fashion store and buy anything, you know, for $10, and you have everything there, you know, instead of going to a vintage store and dig into things. But what made me change my mind is that you get better quality in general.
And
So
also community. You have a filter now to look through, you know, like we met through styling. It's a lot of like-minded people, and the quality comes with that, I think.
I think a sustainable fashion is very different from old school high fashion. Like even the environment is totally different because people are more sensitive and they're actually trying to do something good, and you feel that. And so I think I found my niche, and I'm more and more happy to be involved in this. And also as a stylist, I love to work with people, you know, and show them that they have so many options to choose from and still be cool and stylish, you know. So there are many options out there. It's just many times people don't even know it.
Absolutely. But I feel from an outsider's perspective that like the way you problem solve with styling is similar to the way that your new project is kind of problem solving with other
Absolutely.
stand-ins, you know? So it seems natural for me that one is taken away, you take a step back, and it's, well, what else can I arrange in a great way, in a productive way?
Yeah, I think they kind of go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and now, of course, the future is a big question mark right now for everybody. So we're gonna see, we will see what's gonna happen. You know, it's difficult to plan right now. But I think this is our wake-up call for everybody to try and be more sustainable.
Absolutely. And I mean, new projects like yours are springing up, and it's going to help everyone usher them into this new way of thinking. And I see it already, like walking around the street. There's it's a shift in perspective. So aside from, you know, this new project, what are your bigger dreams in a broader sense? Obviously, we can't really make plans right now, but
Yeah. Well, I think that my bigger dream is to be like an art director in sustainability. And so, you know, I really want to step up sustainable fashion to the point where it's at the same level of high fashion. And yeah, so there's a lot of work to do to get there. But
It's
I
a
think,
cool place to be. We're on the ground floor in a way and moving together, building the community. And I think I'm on board with that plan.
yeah, absolutely, because I think this is the future. I think sustainable fashion is the future. And not only fashion, like sustainability in general. Like it's important to be able to, rethink how everything is working. And yeah, and I'm very happy to be in New York because I feel that so many things are moving, about this, and people are becoming more conscious every day. And so this is great because, we're gonna see where it goes, but it's growing, and I can see that. So
And do
that's
you
what
think that,
keeps me going.
yeah,
Hmm?
do you think that you'd ever want a brick and mortar, like physical space for your new society? Or would it be more appropriate online?
That could be interesting. Like, I think right now is important to give a service online, no matter what it is, because, in case we will have more waves of this coronavirus, whatever, it's important to still be able to do something.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so we can definitely do something through the website, but I'm also a person that loves to be socializing, being doing things, physically, kind of, and not on a computer because I don't really like that. I'm not a computer person. But so it would be actually great to give this project more space, when it's going to be possible.
Yeah. I mean, you
Um,
spoke to me about going to schools and giving like demos for the children. And I mean,
yeah,
I'm seeing like a whole, you could have your own school. Like we could be an after school, it
thank you
could be adult
about
education.
it.
Like this is something that's worth investing in, necessary to invest in. So we
I
have
think
a question. Um, is the fashion industry or media hiring stylists who are focused on sustainable fashion? We would love to hear if this new area is well established.
okay, this is a very interesting question. So I wouldn't say that it's already established because this is something very new. I mean, it's not new, but it's just recently that it has been taken seriously. So I don't know, like, for example, I want to do like a photo shoot, right? I know that if I use secondhand or vintage, it's gonna be more trouble for me to get it published by a magazine because the goal in the first place for magazines is to show the new collections. So it's like kind of like advertising what is new.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard, especially a couple of years ago. I was like, okay, what can I actually do about it as a stylist? Because I don't know if there's a market out there for me. Um, so I started like with little steps, and I started working with people in the first place, like styling people. And instead of taking them to, regular store, fast fashion, whatever, just have them shop secondhand, vintage, sustainable. And I love the process because I found out people love it so much. It's more rewarding, you know? And so, yeah, but I think also high fashion is changing a lot. They're actually investing more into this kind of things, especially now that, that this fast fashion is not doable anymore. Like they're reducing the calendar, they're slowing down. There are brands like Gucci or Armani that are thinking about having just one collection a year instead of six. So they understand in the first place right now that something needs to change. So for me, if you have an interest as a stylist in sustainability, right now it's a plus.
Well, I know that we've worked together on photo shoots that were sustainable and you got them published successfully in magazines. And I'm not sure, was there some vintage components or was it all sustainable designers? And also, have you gotten a feel for which magazines are more open to these things?
Okay, there are some magazines that work just with sustainable fashion. There are not more, and they're not big yet, but they are out there. And even the bigger ones, you know, now are accepting vintage and secondhand. Like, it's becoming more normal. Again, this is a process. And so, you know, especially now, for example, everybody, all the creatives are quarantined and shops are closed, showrooms are closed. So basically, you have to shoot secondhand, because now what they do is the model, like, pick out some clothing from her wardrobe, you know, and the stylist on Zoom explains to her how to style them and blah, blah, blah. So it is secondhand, it is vintage, or it is something you already own. It's not like I ran to the showroom and just got the newest thing. And so they are becoming more flexible. And this opens a whole new, you know, range of possibilities. So, yeah.
And do you think that this has staying power? Do you think that people, you know, it's just during COVID, or do you think that this will really take kind of a stronghold in the industry?
I think this is gonna change. Like, I don't think we are going back to the system like it was before. Like, maybe other fields, but fashion can't afford that.
No.
So it's gonna be different, way different.
The fashion calendar alone this year will be completely twisted.
Absolutely. Also now, you know, you can shop more online because the stores are closed, so you have more time to think about what you want to get. You have to do more research. This is very important, like research, because right now we have this amazing tool that is internet, and if you use it in the right way, you can find anything you're gonna need. So yeah, we'll see what's gonna happen, but I do think sustainability is the future for fashion in the first place. So
I mean, it has to be. And
yeah.
I mean, I know we touched on a little bit how fashion wasn't your first career.
Yeah.
Do you think that what were you studying in Chinese, the language, and
Language and culture.
and so what's, you know, for some of us that might not know about that culture very much, do you think that that consciously or subconsciously really kind of impacted you and made you geared towards this a little bit?
Yeah, I think it did, because especially the writing, like learning how to write Chinese characters, give you you have to be very well balanced. I don't know how to explain it. Like, every character is in perfect balance. So when I style, I realize that I'm always looking for that same balance, but in a picture. So you need a lot of different elements, but they all need to be telling the same story. So I think, aesthetically speaking, it helped me, especially like being careful at details, you know, and being more critic about how everything works together. So, and it gave me a lot of patience too that I didn't have.
No, but I definitely know that balance that you're talking about. Something just isn't right. Add something over there. It definitely is part of creating a cohesive aesthetic. And
Definitely part of my aesthetic. As part of my aesthetic is mixing vintage with avant-garde or more modern pieces. Like, I really love to mix a lot of different elements that they could also be like contrasting in a way, because they're totally different, and then find a way to, you know, find a way to balance them. So I think that's one of the things that I enjoy the most, like having all of these crazy pieces and then put them together and feel good about it. So that's,
I
that's
mean,
when I. Mm-mm.
it sounds to me very similar to your new project. It's just kind of like raising the scale to it's making it on a larger scale, like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting.
Well, going back to you were mentioning that there are certain people that hire sustainable stylists in the industry pre-COVID, and magazines that like to work with only sustainable fashion, or some that are extra friendly. How do you avoid working with the same people over and over? How do you create new connections and opportunities within this really great but growing community?
Yeah. Now, I think there are not many sustainable brands or designers out there that are so established to be at the same level of like regular high fashion. So it's more a mix of different realities that are more or less small. It's more like local designers or little sustainable showrooms, or it's like selections of this kind of fashion. So uh, actually I never had any problem finding more people to work with, just because there are so many new situations out there that are popping up like mushrooms. So it's like every time I look there is something new. And so yeah, so I don't have like problems finding people to work with at all. I think budgets are still smaller um, compared to like regular fashion, but this is changing as well. And also it's less competitive because it's a niche. Like we're not so many people working in this field yet. It's growing, but it's in an early stage. So game is open. So, while fashion is like saturated of, anything. So I think it's interesting.
Absolutely. I think that's a great way to look at it. So we
Yeah,
have another question. Some companies use the word sustainability without any proof that their objects are sustainable or packaged and shipped in a sustainable way. Do you think
absolutely.
there should be some kind of guidelines or regulations for what can be called sustainable? I asked because
Absolutely.
recently I was recommended the site goodonyou.eco. I haven't seen this site. We'll have to take a look afterwards. And
Yeah.
wasn't impressed by the ways they rated these companies. It's a great question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. It's actually like greenwashing is becoming a problem. This is how it's called, like giving all of these informations about being a sustainable brand, or when in the end of the day you are not, just because now being sustainable is becoming the new fashion. So everybody want to be like, you know.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but there are uh, some associations, like especially like non-profits, that really like check they check what these businesses are doing, so you as a consumer can like can see which ones are the brands that are really serious about it and which ones are the ones that are just talking. So I'm talking about fashion revolution. If you check their website, you're gonna have a lot of tips about how to spot a brand that is just doing greenwashing. So that's one of my main sources. It's very interesting. They launched a super famous campaign, Who Made My Clothes? And
Yeah.
there are huge movement that is worldwide right now, and they're very serious. So I think that's really helpful. Yeah, I would totally recommend that website to actually have a more honest look on this kind of things, this kind of problems. Yes.
I mean, I think this is something that's on my mind as well. It came up last week with the canvas. And is there going to be some sort of FDA approval? I know that they spoke about the UN's SDG goals, that they have a list that they've published, and
Yeah.
that those are pretty useful. I find them a little bit hard for the layman, for someone who doesn't really know much about sustainability, to understand many of them. But
What I always recommend, because when it comes to sustainability, it's so hard to be doing it in the right way, you know, like, but what I say is that it's better to be imperfectly sustainable rather than not be. So maybe a brand, I don't know, is sustainable for the materials, but then it's not sustainable on shipping. But it's still better than go to Zara or H&M or whatever, you know? So I always go for that too. If I have to choose, you know, I still save the brand that is not perfectly sustainable, because they're kind of like figuring out how to become sustainable.
I mean, it goes back to the fact that it's like, how can I do this? I'm just one person, where to start? You know, as long as you're doing something, that's a start. And, you know, the more you realize, like on the tour, on the Sustainable Fashion Tour, which you can book at likealocal.com, we go to package free, and that's a great place for these people that may not be sustainable in their day-to-day life to kind of start, is what I tell them, because there's toothpaste, there's toothbrushes, there's, you know, reusable containers. It's just like replace things little by little in your life, and then, you know, but yes, as long as you're thinking about it, I would say.
Yeah, because like for me, like I'm trying at home, I'm trying to go plastic free. And you know, in the first moment I thought, okay, this is gonna be easy. No, it's not. It's like the first time that you go to a grocery, or you go, you know, like buy anything, you realize basically anything is wrapped in plastic.
Yeah,
And
well, you can reuse the plastic.
overwhelming.
What I do is just like in a way that doesn't, you know, cramp my style. We can reuse a lot of the containers, and so it's a good way to at least give it a second life, if not a third.
Yeah, no, but just the thing that you are starting to look at things in a different way, that already
Absolutely.
changes. Because maybe, you know, maybe I buy something in a plastic container, but I have my own bag, you know, that I take from home. I have reusable, you know, containers at home. So what I'm saying, of course, we want a sustainable world. Of course, we want a zero waste circular economy. That is my dream. But the reality is that we are way behind. But this doesn't mean that we cannot do anything about it.
Definitely not. If everyone does something, it'll be changed. And I think that through your Society of Green Arts, people will learn, like, even what one person might think is obvious, another person doesn't know. And I look forward to watching all these demos.
Well, again, the website was literally launched today. So, so it's a very, very early stage, but I'm very passionate about this new project, and I'm having a lot of positive feedbacks. So sky is the limit. We're gonna see where this goes.
Definitely. And in the next few minutes, anyone else who has questions, please type them in. But Ellie, can you tell us a little bit about other collaborators you're excited about that you found in your research for your new project?
Well, that goes on different levels. Like I am showing the project to people that have nothing to do with sustainability, just to, you know, realize if they could be interested in something like that. Because the switch that we also need to make is from niche to normality. So we need to involve people that maybe right now are not even interested in sustainability, you know?
Totally.
So, you know, I talked about this project with just pretty random people. And I have to say that they were interested in it because they never thought about it. Like they never thought that there is so much waste, and they never thought what to do with it. And, you know, even artists or, you know, they are finding interesting how you can transform everything and just make so many different things, you know, because every upcycler out there is pretty unique. And this is also something that I find very interesting, because if I give you, I don't know, a bag full of empty tins that are gonna be thrown away, you might do something, you know, with your creativity, and somebody else would do a totally different thing. So even for them, like the artists that I involved, that now, like in a month, I already have like 20 to 30 collaborators. So
Awesome.
yeah, like 90% of the people that I reach out to are actually happy and willing to collaborate. So that's amazing. And it's so interesting, like it's becoming like wider and wider. Like now, you know, I started from art and fashion, and now I'm finding out there are actual like music bands that just play with instruments made out of trash.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they're like,
they have a fashion show and they'll play.
exactly. So you can do. Another friend of mine, she's building houses out of trash. So, you know, there are so many different things that you can do. And I don't wanna, I wanna stay open, because this is becoming like wider and wider, you know. I just started like digging, and there's so much. So I think it's very interesting, and people are actually curious because it's something you don't see so much, you know.
Totally.
It's something that can pique the brain of so many people, you know, even just out of curiosity. And I think that's one of the main goals for me, is to really like educate people, you know, like to show them the way to do things in a different way. And that's a big, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot to take on, but I think like you're not alone, and it's very exciting, and this is the time. So are you working with people mostly in the US or internationally?
No, right now is really like a worldwide thing. Like I have, I don't know, a brand from Africa. There are a lot of upcyclers in Australia. I'm finding out it's great to have this culture of saving waste from the ocean and make jewelry, or make, you know, clothing, or make. And so yeah, London, New York, of course, New York, Spain, Italy, Texas, Austin. Like I literally have people from everywhere right now. So even Hong Kong, or, you know, it's just, and every time I reach out, they're like so happy, because they're like, oh yes, I feel the same way.
Exactly.
You know, we are on the same page.
Especially in this moment, you know? But I would really be curious to see that. I mean, I've already found this in some ways, traveling and meeting people from other places in a like mind, that different cultures are more kind of geared towards sustainability naturally. Like Cuba doesn't get that much stuff. They're just making things out of what they have. And, you know, Australia maybe.
Countries are more open to that, because like, even if I think about my grandma, for example, like what she taught me when I was little, you know, that she would never throw away anything, like from food to, you know, like the old t-shirt become like the tissue you use to clean the kitchen, or, you know, you use a part of the vegetables to cook, and the other part become like to make an, you know, like a tea or something. So there's always a way to use things. And if we think about it, in nature there is no waste. So everything has a purpose, everything transforms, into something else. So I think if humankind will ever be able to do that, that is going to be a system that is going to work because it's circular.
That is a really beautiful sentiment. I've never heard it summed up so succinctly. In nature, there is no waste. That is 100% true. And
Yeah.
thanks for
we are, so it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. Well, anyone else, last chance for questions. We're running out of time.
I thought it would be hard to talk for an hour, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, we're passionate about it, and it's so exciting to hear. I mean, in this moment, it's really a breath of fresh air to hear like a new project, new exciting ideas happening, and I can't wait to see how it goes. Maybe you want to put the website link in the chat so all our viewers can visit afterwards.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah.
And any last words you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I think we talked a lot, and there are many ideas out there. What I want to say is, if any of you wants to connect with me, even just to give a feedback, or like after this talking, I would be very interesting for me to get your feedbacks too. And again, the Society of Green Arts is a society because it wants to be a community. So any way to collaborate is more than welcome. And yeah, so I think it's important to support each other right now.
And always, I love how regal the title is as well. And well,
my father came up with that.
What'd you say?
Came up with that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, and very exciting news. Ellie is not yet on our actual tour, but is a huge inspiration. She actually drove me to the canvas after styling with them for their inaugural event. So that's how I found the canvas, who spoke last week, and I sell my work at, and we visit on the tour. And so Ellie continues to be a huge inspiration, and you can book this tour at likealocal.com. Thank you so much, and have a great evening, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.